Hello and welcome to Waz Watch. Today we are going to be looking at the movie where a teenage girl feels like she's different than everyone else and finds out that she's special in a miraculous way. Nope, not that one. Not that one either. Yep, that one, right there. Welcome to Waz Watch. Today we will be looking at the Divergent series, Allegiant, Part 1. Now, this is the third movie in the Divergent series. This movie is directed by Robert Schwentke and is the third movie in the Divergent series. In this film, the main character of Tris now finds out that there are people outside of the walls in Chicago, and that something outside of Chicago has been going on, and she must now unravel what that means for both her family, and the faction system that used to be in place in Chicago. Now, the other movies were actually pretty good. I thought that they were close to the Hunger Games, so you still had that kind of built-in audience, but then at the same time they were different enough to where they didn't really feel like a ripoff or a copycat of the Hunger Games movies. This movie was by far my least favorite of the three. A few things I really didn't like. One, I'm not really a big fan of any sort of part one movie. I feel like the entire point of breaking them up into two movies is because you just want more money from more films. And it normally leads to part one being pretty boring, being mostly setup, and then this part two being complete action, big battle finale. And this movie had a ton of special effects. And I don't necessarily mean that they shouldn't have had that many special effects. It is a futuristic sci-fi, utopia, kind of dystopia atmosphere. So you need a lot of high-tech, in the future things. But I feel like because it was rushed out so much because of the popularity of the films, plus it being split into two parts, there was almost so much special effects that there are some special effects in this movie that are really great, awesome, really cool, like floating, sci-fi, future tech stuff, and then there are other parts of the movie where it literally is them standing in front of a green screen. It doesn't even look like an atmosphere or a different area. It is a person standing in front of a screen, and it almost looks like a painting that was just kind of propped up as a background behind them. It was really, really distracting, and I did see this movie in 2D, so potentially if you saw it maybe 3D, IMAX, something along those lines, it might have looked a lot cooler. But for me, there were parts where I could literally tell the actor was like, let's go. And this whole background area was just a picture. And it was just really, really distracting and removed me from the film several times. And so it was incredibly hit or miss with the special effects. I will also admit I have not read the books, so I'm not entirely sure how close that it stood to the books. But as this, there felt like there was a lot of holes, and there was a lot of, well, why on earth are they doing that, and what is that even about? And maybe those will get filled in part two, but I just felt like this standalone movie by itself really was not that great. The acting was fine, the battles were fine, a lot of, like I said earlier, the special effects, when you could tell they put a lot of effort into them, were really cool. But there was also a lot of really like corny one-liners. I feel like a lot of the lines were characters doing this. Like that was several lines over and over. And so I just really wasn't that engrossed in it. And like I said, I did like Divergent, I did like Insurgent. This one just felt a little bit weak. A lot of it felt rushed, which is surprising. So they were either dragging stuff out or rushing things in. There are basically two settings for this movie, inside and outside of the wall. And without spoiling too much, I was a much bigger fan of everything going on inside the walls. Now, outside the walls, you learn a lot, but it's a little bit discombobulating, and you're not really sure what's going on, which part of it is good because you have that suspense, but then it also just never really resolves itself, and you don't really know what's going on or why are people here and all this that's going on the outside. But on the inside, there's a lot of really interesting things going on that I liked about both Divergent and Insurgent, the sort of politics inner struggle. That was really cool. So if there would have been more of that on the inside and less on the outside of the walls, or maybe if they just filled us in a little bit more when we were outside the walls, I think I would have enjoyed the movie just a little bit more. Overall, the movie was pretty good. If you like the first two, I would say yes, see this one, because it does continue the story. You do see the characters develop more, but this is not the kind of movie that is going to make you want to go back and watch the other two. Also, you'd be completely lost because they don't do a lot of backtracking. Before I forget, there is this one scene that really, really bugged me, where Miles Teller's character is at a wall that he cannot get through. That's all I'm going to say, so I'm not trying to spoil too much. But he literally just rambles for like a minute. And I feel like the director just said, okay, you're upset, now talk about it. And he was just kind of rambling for a minute, and I really felt like this is not very scripted, and this is very stupid. The entire 60-second span where that was happening, I just really disliked that whole part. I wish this movie did not happen right now. And so there are just a few moments where it's very like that. Very like, ugh, that just completely takes you out of the movie, and it just seems very poorly done. There's a lot of really bad dubbing where you can tell it's an obvious voiceover over a spanning shot, or someone's back is turned and they'll say, oh, here's some extra information that we forgot to have the actors do while we were filming, so we're going to throw that in there just to add some lines. Like, I think that there's a part where someone says like wowzers or jinkies or something like that while seeing something really big, and you could tell it was an obvious voiceover, and it was just really bad. So there's a few of those in this movie. But by far, this was my least favorite of the three. Hopefully, part two can make a really great conclusion to what I think is a very good series of movies up to this point. Overall, I am going to give the Divergent series Allegiant Part 1 a C-. I just thought that it was very subpar in comparison to the other two films, and I think that hopefully Part 2 will be a lot better and have a really epic conclusion, but this one just left me wanting more, and not in a good way. It felt like it was rushed and just not that great of quality, and I think it furthered the story, but also introduced a lot of questions unintentionally. So maybe this movie will get better after we see part 2, but I'm just not really that sure. So as of now, I'm going to give it a C-. Well, that's my review of the movie. What did you guys think of it? Are you planning on seeing it? Have you seen it? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Also, today's question is, what is your favorite teen novel movie? Is it The Hunger Games? Is it Divergent? Is it The Mortal Instruments? What is your favorite teen book that has been turned into a movie? Also, what book from your teenage years would you love to see turned into a movie? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, please like, share, and subscribe to these videos. We really do appreciate when you do that. Feel free to follow me on Twitter and let me know what movie I need to see next. I'm Matt Wozbinski, and thanks for watching.